Very early on, Sahelanthropus chilensis in Chad, northern Central Africa. This skull is the only part of this fossil that was found. It's 6 to 7 million years old. It has relatively small canines, no shearing complex. Now the canines that are long, of course, have to fit the maxilla and the mandible canines have to fit together, so there's a space in the teeth called the diastema that the canines can fit into. This is also called shearing complex because as the canines move up and down this diastema, they actually sharpen themselves. So in this case, this skull didn't show a diastema or a shearing complex. It seemed to have a forward place foramen magnum. Possible early hominid. Now the archaeologist who found this swears it is. But if you can tell by this picture, the skull has been very twisted. It's hard to line it up. In the film Becoming Human, The First Steps, they will talk about this find and what they really think about it. Auroran tonganensis from Kenya, East Africa. Approximately 6 million years old. Postcranial bones only, nothing from the skull or the cranium. Bipedalism is uncertain, but the neck of the femur indicates frequent bipedality. In bipeds, the femur has a where it connects to the acetabulum has a curve, so that our thighs move towards the center to give us that center of gravity. Quadrupeds don't have this; they come straight down. So this is Auroran tonganensis, unsure, but has some qualities of bipedalism. First hominid, could this be it? Ardipithecus ramidus from Ethiopia, East Africa, dating 4.4 to 5.8 million years old, originally placed in the Australopithecus genus. This they have thicker molar enamel, relatively large canines. Prognasticism. Prognasticism is the jutting out of the jaw that you see very much so in chimpanzees and when dogs and things. As bipedalism comes in, prognasticism shrinks and the face becomes more flat. Has a forward place foramen magnum. There are multiple individuals represented, and an opposable big toe has been found. It lived in the woodlands and forest areas. It is a possible human, or hominid, excuse me, not human by any means. So here are some Australopithecines and early hominids. Early hominids, Ardipithecus, Auroran, and Sahelanthropus. These are possible bipeds. Australopithecus anamensis and afarensis are bipeds. Early hominids. Fossil of Australopithecus afarensis is what we see here, and that is probably the most well-known. Lucy is the female. These are two casts of a male. Evolutionary relationships. You can use the PDF, or I'll leave this on for a few minutes so that you can look at time spans and relationships among these. Australopithecus anamensis, 3.9 to 4.2 million years old. 78 fossils from two sites in Lake Turkana and Kanapoe and Alia Bay. Lake Turkana area, Kanapoe, and Alia Bay. The first species to be classified in the genus Australopithecus. Primarily dental remains, cranial and postcranial. There's pieces of the skull, arm, fingers, and leg bones. Based on articulation of leg bone, it's considered to be a hominid. Exhibited a sectorial premolar and both sexual and canine dimorphism. Dimorphism is the difference in size between the sexes, male and female. So sexual dimorphism means males are larger than females, and canine dimorphism, the canines in males are larger than those in females. There's larger molar and thick enamel around the molars, and relatively large canines. Australopithecus afarensis, 3.0 to 3.9 million years ago. There are 70 individuals that are represented. Postcranially, Australopithecus is somewhat different to earlier hominid forms. We talk about individuals, they're not as complete as the skeleton of Lucy. They are just pieces of, and they can tell if they're individuals if they have two right femurs, or something like that. Lower first premolar is semisectoral, partially compressed from side to side. Canine is smaller than previous hominids, but larger than future hominids. The process of reducing. Highly modified femur and pelvis girdle. The femur does have a slant to it, and the pelvis girdle is now a basket. Not bipedal like we are, Homo sapiens, but on the way of getting there. Phalanges, fingers, are the digits on the fingers and toes are slightly curved still. Primates, their fingers, their digits are slightly curved to help them be mobile in the trees. Arm bones, the ulna and the radius, are longer than later hominids. And in fact, Don Johansen, who found Lucy, held her ulna up to his, and they were the same size. She was 3.5 feet tall, he was 6 feet tall. So again, this is a remnant of when living in trees was a must. Australopithecus afarensis. This is reported in Nature News, June 21st, 2010. Nicknamed Big Man. It's 3.58 million years old. It's a male skeleton. It comes from the Rift Valley in the central Afar of Ethiopia. It's estimated at 2 meters tall, which is more than 6 feet. And what I just said is that Australopithecines are about 3.5 feet. So this is quite an anomaly. Let's look at Lucy.
I was headed back to my Land Rover. It was about noontime, and I was going to drive back to camp. And I just happened to look over my right shoulder, and I noticed a small piece of bone resting on the surface of the ground. And as I began to look around and scan the slope, I could see not only bits of a leg, but bits of a skull, a little piece of a jaw. And I realized right there in that noonday sun that what I had literally stumbled across was most of an entire skeleton.
As more and more of these precious fragments came back from the field, a buzz of excitement ran through the camp.
How big do you think she is?
Everyone knew instinctively this was something big.
That's about casting material?
To find such a fossil was wonderful for me, you know. It was a night I'll never forget.
It's an area about that big. It's not huge.
And it was wonderful for Ethiopia too. After this, everybody wanted to come here to look at our Lucy.
The shape of the lower jaw and tiny details of the teeth alerted us to an intriguing mixture of ape and human-like features, something we'd never seen before. Some of the fragments were tiny. Hundreds of them were collected, carefully cleaned and laid out on the table. The whole camp was absorbed with the mystery of what this creature looked like. The pelvis was in fragments. It took hours to piece it together.
In Ethiopia, you know, we called her Dinkanesh. It means thing of wonder.
The hours passed. No one thought of sleep. We had so much to do. Then we looked at the knee. It was modern, human-like, just like the one I'd found the previous year. As we put the bones together, we saw they came from one tiny adult female, standing only 3.5 feet tall. This was the creature we'd been looking for. The celebration began. One song was played over and over. And we named our new find Lucy.
Lucy became an almost instant celebrity in anthropological circles. She didn't look like anything we had ever found before. She was something very different. And because of that, she opened up for us an entire new chapter on human origins.
Lucy dispelled the idea that in fact there were apes, there was an intermediate creature, and then humans. Showed that in fact Lucy was a process of many hominids that had been appearing and going extinct, and in fact she may have been more closely related to us than the ape relatives that were quadruped. Gracile Australopithecines africanus. Now Lucy is from East Africa. Africanus is from South Africa. Most of the differences between the two types of Australopithecines is in the face and dentition. Littlefoot is an Africanus. Paleoanthropologist Ronald Clark carefully excavates Australopithecine Africanus skeleton nicknamed Littlefoot from a limestone matrix at Sterkfontein Cave in South Africa. Australopithecus barragonzali, approximately 3.3 million years old, found in Chad, Africa, possibly a representative of Afarensis. What they're going by here, first look at what we've got. What are they using to determine that this might be bipedal? The reduction in the canines and the lack of a shearing complex or diastema for the canines to fit in the upper and lower jaws. Kenyanthropus platyops, approximately 3.5 million years old, small teeth and comparatively flat face. It's a nearly complete cranium, but it has no bottom to it, so the foramen magnum is not present. So they're going with the reduced size of the canines and the more flat face. The missing link. There are several hominids that are contemporary with each other. There is one line that would lead to Homo sapiens, but which one is that? We use morphology and rates of evolution or particular traits to hypothesize about our direct lineage. Right now, Australopithecine afarensis seems to be what we're leaning towards. DNA testing of fossils is not possible. If you remember, fossils are mineralized bone, no longer have organic material in them.